Hello everyone and welcome to Stoked. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Coming up in this episode, we have your user-submitted story that won after everyone voted on it in an epic trailer form.
This is Invasion of the Ship Snatchers.
Yep.
The cinematic is going to be awesome. We haven't made it yet, but we're hoping it's going to be awesome.
The way we shoot this, we've actually not done it yet.
Right.
So
after that, we're going to be discussing your submitted comments regarding our free-to-play conversation that we had last week. Some interesting comments.
Yeah, actually, a lot of interesting comments.
Yeah.
And then we've also got a whole new question that we'll ask you that I think you guys are going to absolutely love.
I really like it.
But before we get to all that, there's been a major news update on the big secret project that we thought we'd share with you guys because there seems to be a lot of interest around that. I just want to make a quick note, though, before we talk about that. We launched a new show over at Jupiter Broadcasting, and a lot of the people that watch Stoked have been joining, and we found that it's been a real hit amongst our Stoked fans. So I wanted to mention that go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com when you have a free moment and check out our new show, Jupiter at Night. We do it every night, the J-Man here and I. And
close to every night.
Well,
it's Monday through Thursday.
Yeah. And we do it live at 9 p.m. Pacific.
I think the live part is really what's getting people, and it's really a lot of fun. We're not just building a new show here. It's like a community is forming around this.
Yeah, and it's neat because the more and more activity that we have in the chat room, we've been integrating the comments that people make in the chat room into our show live. Yeah. So when you get a chance, go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com and check out Jupiter at Night. I think you guys really love it. But all right. Let's talk about this big secret project, Jeremy. What's the big news update?
I'm excited because this is pretty much, it seems set in stone. We know what it is. It's going to be a complete overhaul of sector space, which on the surface, that doesn't seem like so big of a deal. We've already known that a revamp of sector space was coming.
They don't have a final design picked at all. In fact, there's several demos still in-house that they're working on.
As far as art and art assets, it seems like it's probably in place, but the actual fine mechanics, they're working on several different iterations of ways to do this.
Right.
Because it's not just sector space.
It's not going to be just a visual overhaul. It's going to be more of an integration with exploration and episodic content.
Okay, it sounds like it's going to be a defeat. It's going to finally kill the going to an area and walking through doors scenario that exploration currently is.
Right. It also means, by insinuation and by some of the other comments, is that traveling while inside your ship sounds like it's off the table now for a while.
Yeah.
I kind of liked that idea.
I do too.
And it gives me a reason to go into my interior.
They did mention that it's something that they're keeping on the table, kind of back-burnered, but for right now they're focusing on what they can currently do with this new system.
Now, it sounds like another component on top of all of this for Season 3 will be a beta version of the user-generated content engine. And perhaps we'll access that through this new sector space system.
You know, we're excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. it really sounds like sector space is going to become more of an integrated hub of the game.
Yeah, which is great because if you think about it, it's the only massively social area in the entire world.
And until you'd mentioned that a couple episodes ago, and I hadn't thought of it, and you kind of blew my mind right there in the episode because I was just totally on board with I'll just travel in my ship. I don't need sector space. But there is that social component of just even seeing other players. And I could see how if there wasn't a lot of things to do in my ship, there's a balance you'd have to strike there, because in order for me to want to travel in my ship, I'll need something to do. But what can I do in my ship that doesn't just take so much time to get there and do it that I would already be at my destination?
Right.
Could be kind of monotonous after about the third time, and then you also completely lose scenery.
How many times can you rearrange your trophies?
Exactly. And I want to see everyone's ship. But it does sound like this is the main feature changes, and then the rest is going to be bug fixes and polish. And that's what a lot of people have been asking for.
You know, we'll get to a little bit of that more when we talk about the Ask Cryptic in just a minute. But before that, I wanted to bring up some of these major PvP queue changes that just landed on Tribble, actually. Have you gotten a chance?
I checked them out just really briefly, just so I could kind of make a few comments in the show. The first thing I'd noted is that the PvP queue interface is much streamlined, much more improved.
Good.
Much more, I don't know how else to say it, but much more professional looking. And then, I don't know, maybe that's a bad description. And then also, what I really wanted to check out.
The old version was made by professionals, you know.
I know. I don't know how to say it better. I'm sorry, guys. The other thing that jumped out at me in a big way was the matchmaking system. And this is what I'm really excited about the new PvP system, is there's going to be a one-on-one matchmaking system. And that's going to be awesome. And in the back of my mind, I immediately started thinking, how could we do this in Jupiter Force, right?
Right.
I hadn't seen the new system yet, but this was just something that was sort of brewing back there. When I opened up the matchmaking interface, and the first thing I saw was where I could also type in somebody to invite, the people that were on the Tribble server in my fleet already were automatically listed that were online. At least that was my first impression. I have not even tried to check a box and invite them. It might not work. I thought, awesome.
Great first step, though. I mean, even just displaying them, if they still have to plug in some of the back-end technology.
I mean, I love making the fleet more important in the game. That bringing that, because those are like the really passionate communities that are the people that spread the word about the game.
Exactly.
So making them more passionate about the game is the key thing.
Well, I've been actually thinking I want to check out the stuff to make sure that it's up to it, but I'm probably going to put together Friday Night Fight Nights for Jupiter Force.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I don't know. I'm really excited with the possibilities of that, and it's also cool. I got to imagine. I don't know for sure, but I have to imagine from a technology standpoint, they must either have a bunch of instances ready, or they are spinning up instances on the fly for private matches. Either way, it's cool server technology doing it.
Yeah, the server technology for STO, I've been impressed. That's a tangent we'll go on some other time.
We should maybe. Yeah, I'd love to maybe get somebody on from Cryptic.
If you think about it, so few MMOs use this unified server architecture with yeah, okay. We'll get into that some other time.
That could be if you guys are interested, let us know in the feedback anywhere you want, and
well, let's get into the Ask Cryptic that came out just the other day. This was on August 9th. Now, obviously, every time they go through these, there's so many questions. You guys already have the answers if you've been watching our show because you're in touch with the way things roll. One of the major things about the Ask Cryptic that came out, I'm really excited about this, is it seems like they're just completely shifting gears. Like up until this point, they've been pushing out content.
Well, they've been a little content starved. That was kind of what they needed to do.
I don't disagree with going that route. But now it looks like they're officially shifting gears into this fix what they've got.
Yeah. Polish and improve.
Now, in some cases, like for Klingon Play, that requires new content.
Yeah.
So they'll probably continue to roll that out. And the weekly missions, we know, we're going to keep getting new content.
That's exactly what I wanted to mention, because I've heard this theme more and more in the forum lately, that as Cryptic is shifting to fixing polish and bug fixes, and Season 3 is only going to have this and maybe no new exploration content or episodic content. But people aren't taking into consideration that during all of this, they're still going to be rolling out the weekly content. So when Season 3 hits, there's going to have been weeks and weeks of content.
Season 3 is not slated until November. That's still 3 months away.
And the new first weekly content comes out like what, on the 22nd or 23rd?
Just a couple weeks. I don't recall the exact date off the top of my
so
head.
it's going to start hitting soon.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. All right.
There were multiple mentions of user-generated content as well in this, and the one thing that I found the most interesting is that they're going to be implementing into this. This is how you'll be able to customize your ship interiors and create fleet starbases.
What?
I find this interesting for a couple reasons. One is that both of those are persistent zones. They're not just something that you spawn and then interact with and do a little story and then it's gone.
Right. No, they have to be saved and they have to be available, especially a fleet. If you could build a fleet starbase, that has to be available for multiple people to be able to join at any time.
Yeah.
It also implies collaboration on the creation of that place.
Absolutely. I mean, because you wouldn't want to have to put that entire thing on just one person's shoulders to create something for an entire fleet.
Maybe they have amazing shoulders. Yeah, I think that sounds exactly like what that is, and that's going to be awesome.
Well, that also opens up, I mean, not just for fleet bases, but if you wanted to create an episode of your own and collaborate with other people.
Honestly, I really hope there's a collaborative effort there, because I could really see the fleets collaborating together.
Yeah.
And again, I think that strong, healthy fleets improve the game on so many fundamental levels.
And every single mechanic that allows you to interact with your fleet mates is a good thing. So one last thing. That's basically all that there was in the Ask Cryptic.
Are you going to mention the?
Yes, I am, because I just find this amusing. The very last question in the Ask Cryptic was, when are we going to be able to sit in chairs?
Yeah.
I find this amusing because the answer was basically, that technology is hard.
Yeah.
It just seems so ridiculous that sitting in a chair is hard.
I guess computers can't do everything better than us, right?
I guess.
All right, well, I think that's everything we've got in the news segment. Let's roll that trailer. Last week, we asked you how you would feel if STO moved to a free-to-play model. And holy smokes, you guys, you wrote us in some of the most amazing responses we've ever seen.
Absolutely. Well thought out.
Yeah.
Great examples included. I do want to give a special shout out to a guy by the name of Blue Badger.
Now, why?
Well, he had a very unique output on this whole thing. He's been a player of Dungeons & Dragons Online, DDO, since beta.
Oh.
He's been in the community all this time.
So he's been there while it transitioned to a free-to-play.
Exactly. So he had a unique approach to seeing how it already has affected a game in progress.
That's cool. And now he plays STO?
Yep.
Okay. So what did he think?
He's actually a lifetimer of STO.
So what was his thoughts on it?
Well, it boiled down to a few specific points, and that was basically that DDO badly needed the influx of players.
Okay.
It was about to die.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily say STO is
No, I don't. But, you know, adding new players to your game is never a bad thing, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the other thing that he said is that the existing subscription models were adapted in such a way that it didn't alienate existing players.
And that's got to be key. And that's one thing a lot of people sent in, is that's an important aspect. Yeah, you want to make sure that you still feel like you get value for your subscription.
Absolutely.
That's understandable.
Now, the big downside that he mentioned is that he feels, and a lot of the DDO community feels, that the Turbine store, which is like their C-store version, drives a lot of new players to it to obtain things that they can get through the game, but they don't know that yet.
So it comes across feeling like a money grab?
Exactly. And maybe the new players don't know that at first, but as they continue to play the game, they realize, wait, I bought this.
That's a tight line to walk. And I could see that being an issue with STO. If what we've heard seems to be accurate, the C-store is apparently ran by a different team than the actual game team.
Right.
And so it might be that the C-store's interests don't always align with the game content team's interests.
Yep.
And if they're responsible for generating a lot more revenue all of a sudden, I could see how that could be a temptation for STO.
Absolutely.
Now, that wouldn't necessarily be a good thing at all.
One of the main reasons that this continues to come up, I've got a link in our show notes to basically the original article from Massively, where the guys from Turbine came out and said that the switch to free-to-play was an absolute thumbs up, the best thing they could have done for DDO.
They were talking like their profits are way up. They had their store sales went up 500%. And all
this is basically what got all of the other MMO companies interested in taking a look at this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we asked your guys' input on it, and surprisingly, I guess that shouldn't be surprised at this point, but you had a lot of the same output on it.
I don't know. I mean, it was almost all positive. In fact, it was almost unanimously positive.
Like, we didn't get any responses that were like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to STO.
No, it just seemed like you had a few reservations, but for the most part, it would not only be okay with you, but you think a lot of you thought it'd be a good thing. I honestly thought we'd get a lot of hate. I really did.
I did too, and we didn't get any, hardly any, if any.
So if we take what the masses said and boil it down to some of the consensus, what did we get?
Well, if you want to just boil it down to its most simple, is keep the freetards separate from the subscribers in some way.
Now, does
segregate them?
This comes from is it a point of I've paid for this, I've earned this, or is it from like I don't want noobs ruining my game?
I think both. To different degrees.
Probably.
A lot of people are concerned that the free people will come in and ruin the Star Trek communities that are already existed.
Yeah.
So, they want to keep them separate. And a few major things that were mentioned is like restrict or eliminate access to the exchange for free players. Now, one of the main reasons that was mentioned to turn that off is so that the gold farmers and credit sellers out there wouldn't just create this rolling amount of free accounts.
But if you leave them the ability to buy, so the free players can buy stuff from the people who are subscribed, that just all of a sudden brings a whole new a bunch of people that can buy stuff from the exchange, and you just got a lot more valuable items.
It kind of bootstraps up the economy that's in the game as well for existing subscribed players.
Yeah, that could potentially be awesome, and then maybe they would buy access to the exchange.
I'm not really sure. And you know what? I'm not in charge, so I don't have to think about that.
Hopefully, we never do. I don't know.
Now, another major point that they wanted to keep them separate is actually the community itself, the forums.
Right.
They wouldn't want to interact with people that might be trying the game for the first time and either be very unknowledgeable about it or just very much a detractor towards it.
I could see maybe. I mean, it sounds a little elitist, but I can appreciate it if there's a continuous influx of new players all the time. I guess what you could just do is just set out a section in the forum where everyone can get access to, including the free, and then a separate section where only the people who've paid have access.
Right.
And that seems like, well, how do the other games do this? I mean, like, I've played Age of Conan.
That seems to be the exact case for DDO.
I played Age of Conan, and I was able to play the trial without ever providing a credit card. I had access.
Oh, right.
I mean, that system seemed to work, and I don't know how do they get around that whole influx of new characters ruining things.
Well, one of the things they do in game is basically content locks. You know, in Age of Conan, you could only access that one starting island, huge island.
Yeah, that first big area.
Right.
So you could take that, you could translate that to STO, and you could say maybe free players can only play in Sirius Sector. Maybe Regulus. Maybe free players can only do exploration content, not episodic, but maybe they can buy.
I could see that happening. Yeah, like
so they don't get the whole game.
Right.
That could maybe be because then you get a good taste of it by that point, especially.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, the episodic content really is where the game is at. That is the best stuff that they have to offer.
Right, and they're just going to be adding more and more with the weekly episodes. So
if you wanted to incentivize people to go to the store and purchase new content, that would be the stuff to sell.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, I would say generally speaking, everyone's general thoughts on it, where it's a good thing if it's done right.
Yeah.
With a few caveats.
Yeah, there were some major reservations. That is basically boils down to two things. One is that it has to be done with care to not alienate the existing subscriber base.
Don't make it feel like a money grab.
And that's the other big thing.
Yeah.
Is just to make it so that nobody feels like they're continuously being pushed towards. Have you ever heard of Sony's game Free Realms?
No.
It was a free game. But like every time you turned around, they were asking you to spend points on something,
right?
And it was just constant nagging.
It's like when you go to the hotel and then you go there and to open this bottle of water, it's it's $1. To use this soap, it's $2.
Right. To access HBO, you got to spend another $2. To make a phone call, you got to spend.
It gets very aggravating, very draining. So they have to avoid that.
Right.
I don't think Cryptic would do that. I think they get that based on the comments we've seen. I think they get that now. With talking about content lockdowns and all of this stuff, my final closing thoughts on free to play is that don't expect it anytime soon. What you guys have mentioned are important aspects, and to pull these things off correctly, it would involve a lot of repiping, I would imagine.
Well, the content locks itself would require an individual one-on-one review of every point of existing content in the game, and somebody would have to go and go through it all and say free, yes, or no, and how much.
Right. Or they say all these types.
Right.
But that's still just so much work that I if we see this, I would not expect to see it in 2010. That's my opinion. This is just not where their heads are at right now. It's probably something that they're willing to entertain at some point, but right now they've got a job to do, and I think they're probably focusing on that.
Really interesting that everybody seems to be interested in it, though.
I mean, it's good that if this is a route that they take, that it maybe won't be as bad as some people thought. I thought it was going to be before I saw this.
STOked actually just mentioned recently that he is now of the opinion that doing free-to-play model is no longer a last resort for a game. Okay. And I think that getting these responses from our community proves that the players themselves feel the same.
Yeah.
I think that's how it all boils
Despite
down.
however the headlines may look, it does seem like the players are kind of on board. Now, let's talk about next week's question, because I think you guys are going to love this question.
This is a great one. I would love to participate in this, but I'm going to withhold. We want your character bios.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like we're just a bunch of role-playing geeks out here, but the Star Trek universe is rich.
Yeah.
It's canonific, you know?
It is canonific.
There's so much out there. There are so many stories to be told.
Yeah.
We want to hear the stories that you've told about your characters.
Send in your bios, STOked@JupiterBroadcasting.com. We're gonna take a look at them, and we're gonna see which ones just really jump out at us, and then we'll do a spotlight here on STOked with that.
We'll probably this won't be like the previous one where we vote for a winner, because
this is not a contest.
No.
It's not like that. But a couple of things maybe to keep in mind is if you have a bio and you want us to really get excited about it, it's probably important that it's accurate to the Star Trek universe, maybe the game universe, things like that.
Like you don't want to be an anachronistic time traveler or something.
Warlord.
Right. And, personal preferences, I wouldn't want somebody to give us a story that is like I'll just call it a chosen one syndrome. Where they're like the last of a dying race, or like a Q in human form that's trying to fit in. Those just...
Now, you never know. Somebody might have an amazing one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for the most part,
I'm kind of with you.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be surprised, but I'm with you.
On the exact opposite spectrum, people that are playing just normal, everyday Joes, humans, Tellarites, Andorians, Vulcans. If you've got a great story for a character that is a canon Federation race, or KDF if you're a Klingon player, those will probably resonate more, because you've already got a built-in backstory for that entire race.
They tickle that Star Trek geek, in the back right here, and I'm like, ooh, yeah.
So honestly, those will probably be more likely to tickle our fancy. But
you never know, though. So send them in.
Yeah.
Stoked at JupiterBroadcasting.com, and then we'll pick a few of our favorites and feature them here on the show.
Kind of do a community spotlight. Share the best ones with you.
One thing we'll mention, give us the character's name, but if you don't want it mentioned on the air, be sure to let us know at the very top of your email so we notice it. Otherwise, we plan to give your character a shout out so people can go see you in game and give you a high five for winning. Well, it's not a contest, but you know what I mean. Everybody wins a little. Okay, everyone. Well, tune in next Tuesday over at JupiterBroadcasting.com to catch that. And until then, have a great Stow week.